Hello, friends. Welcome to Simplifying Retail podcast. Today, I have the honor of hosting one of my close friend, and she is the marketing guru. Let me welcome Marwa Kapoor. Marwa, thanks for taking out time for us for the podcast for my listener. Friends, Marwa has 20 years of marketing and branding experience into communications and marketing. She has seen both the sides of the world, the agency side when it comes to the creative and the branding agency side, also at the client sides. She has experience of over 20 years and in various sectors, diverse sectors I would call it, right from airlines to banking to FMCG to FMB, automotive, manufacturing, construction, power generation. My God, the list goes on. Mama, have you missed out
Well,
something?
I did miss out on luxury retail like you, but thank you so much for the introduction. I do consider myself a multidiscipline and multi-industry marketeer, and this is a niche by itself today, and it comes with its own set of challenges and lessons.
So, which sector have you missed other than luxury retail?
Um, So I've been working for close to 25 years, and I believe I've missed on luxury retail, high-end fashion, um, cosmetics,
Okay.
perfumes and makeup. So that's
Okay.
pretty much what you can come and fill in, and that's why I'm so happy to be with you today.
Thank you,
We can
Marwa.
exchange thoughts on the industry as well.
Thank you. Friends, today Marwa is going to tell us some tricks, some growth hacks from her experience, or rather, it would be a tips for marketeers, budding marketeers, and entrepreneurs how to write an effective creative marketing brief. I
Yes.
understand most of the people is still struggle in writing the creative brief when they ask for different pitches from different creative agencies. So, friends, listen to this podcast, and it's going to be great, full of insights from Marwa. So,
Okay.
welcome once again, Marwa.
Thank you, Ritesh. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to believe that what they've done wasn't good enough. I think having lived on both sides of the industries, the agency side and the client side, we always had the gap of the brief. Clients could probably get so upset and tired from agencies telling them the brief is not good enough, and agencies get so tired from receiving briefs that don't really fulfill the requirements that would lead you into a great campaign. And we know the pain. The pain is on both sides. As a marketing person, you get either artwork that is not as creative as you want it to be. You either end up looking like your competition, or you either end up launching campaigns that are stale, generic, not exciting. And on the agency side, they also pay a hefty price. That is probably long hours in the office, crunching deadlines, and just sheer demotivation for having to rework an entire campaign over and over again. The question is, why does it happen, and what's so difficult
True.
about writing a creative brief? Um, Everybody has their reasons, and I think there is nothing difficult about writing a creative brief. It's a matter of perspective. And when I say perspective, it means you as an agency person and a creative generator need to see one perspective, and your client is giving you another perspective. So, marketeers in general talk marketing. Their briefs are full of what the company do, what the product is all about, how great the product is, and why they decided to launch the product, and how they expect this product to rock their market shares. And they talk about the product and the product and the product, and they talk about the market share and the numbers. They talk about the specs of the product and where the product is going and how is it going to be positioned. And then they mention their customers very briefly.
Okay, so there is a gap I see.
There is a gap. Now, the thing is, we need to look at the perspective of the agency. And to be honest with you, having worked in branding, I also believe this gap exists in branding and generating brand stories. Your story as a brand is not about you or what you're trying to offer. Your story is how are you saving your customers. So if we rewrite a brief starting from a customer and what problems, issues, hassles, um, gaps that exist in the customer's life, and we actually exaggerate those instead of exaggerating the product, and then look at how we come in with our products, with our services, and save the lives of our customers.
That reminds me a very nice quote which I had read some time back. The people don't buy products; they
Yes,
buy outcomes.
absolutely.
So that's something very insight what you have mentioned.
Absolutely.
I had one this question always in my mind: who should write a brief? I personally I feel the brand owner or the owner of the company, maybe the CEO, should write a brief, and he should be the one who is approving the final outcome of an agency. So, what do you think, in your opinion, in your experience, who should write a creative brief for the agency?
I think the person who writes the brief should be a person who is able to emulate a customer. Um, Sometimes VPs of operations, heads of sales are very much concerned about their sales pitch. They live it and they breathe it, and they do a great job at selling that product to you. But you need that person who knows your customer very well. And as a marketeer, if you do not think you know your customer well, please don't try. Go out to your customer facing frontliners. They could be call center agents, they could be security guards that stand at the door of your retail outlets. They could be your CX experts, and please ask them to understand the customer. And if you feel you don't understand the customer enough, reach out to your customer and talk to them. I've worked in F&B retail, and we once launched one of the most famous American fast food brands here. I'm not going to mention the name of the brand since I no longer work for the company. But everything about the launch was perfect, except the fact that the menu is very American in its design. It did not
Okay.
have photos. So once you just spend enough time, and we spend so much time teaching our waiters and waitresses to sell the product, to explain what the recipe is. They've spent, countless hours trying to remember every plate on this like humongous menu. But just from sheer observation, I found out that customers in the region want to look at a menu and point their finger to a picture.
Amazing, amazing insight.
Um, it's this simple. I mean, you could have hired a focus group company and they would have given you reasons why you're going to succeed and how the recipes answer to all the taste palettes and whatnot. But truly, this simple human behavior that people want to open a book and point to a finger, it's this simple, was missing. So all the upselling training could have been avoided had we just redesigned the menu to include pictures of the products that we know customers are looking for.
True. So that reconfirms my understanding and my belief that the solution to the complex problem lies in simple answers.
Yes.
So it lies in the problem itself, and in this case, the photograph was missing how the dish is looking or it's going
Absolutely.
to turn out.
Absolutely. I once wrote about this in an article that Entrepreneur published
Hmm.
last year, and I spoke about the 1981 customer. And it's your classic case study about the Coke and the Pepsi scenario when Pepsi started
Hmm.
gaining market share from Coke, and everyone at Coke spent millions and millions redesigning the specs of their products and adding the sugar content simply because they, you know, attributed that the increase in market share of Pepsi was due to the taste of the product. So again, the entire initiative was driven around the product. And we all know the story and what happened. The
Yes.
customer was not happy, and there was a slashback, and customers demanded for their right to get their original product back.
You're right.
Similarly, with Gap, they paid close to $100 million on changing their logo, which
Logo.
was just not needed.
True.
And customers were not happy, and then all the money went down the drain, and the old logo was back.
True.
So, going back to your question, who writes the brief? Can we say that the customer should write the brief?
That's a very interesting perspective, Mavo. But how do you get your focus group customers to write a brief for you? Or it's like, it reminds me of a quote of Henry Ford, wherein he said, if I had asked my customer what they would want, the answer would be a faster horse. They would have never said they wanted an automobile, so a
Exactly.
car. So it's a dual sword, a dual edged sword that it can hit you back as well, because your customer don't know what actually they want unless you show them this particular product is what they need. So
Absolutely. So I think we need to perhaps understand that in our field of work with marketing and branding, we need to do a lot more than what they tell us to do, a bit more about scratching the surface. I once attended a webinar for one of the creative directors of BDO Spain, and he explained the 3 why system.
wow.
So asking the why 3 times. Perhaps if you are able to dig deep enough with your customers and get to the core of what they're looking for, you can arrive at a better description of what they want.
True.
And that's absolutely true. Um, this must have been 14 years ago, and just a few months ago, I was listening to Vishen Lakiani, who's a very famous
Yes. Mind Valley.
the owner of Mind
Yeah,
Valley.
yeah.
And in his, actually in his book, Limitless, he brings up the 3 whys again. And he tells a story of a lady that came in and said, I've been trying to manifest faster typing skills. And he said, why? And she's like, I need to type faster to get paid higher. She was getting paid by the hour. And then he asked her why. And she said, well, because I'm trying to make more money to move my mom to live in with me. And he asked her again why. And she said, well, to be honest with you, I really dream about, living in the Big Apple, but with my mom. And, to make a long story short, it wasn't about the typing.
Mm.
So let's take this and convert it into a brief. We ask our customers, what do you want? And they say, we want faster typing. We end up telling our agency, come up with a campaign that shows us,
How
that
to
shows,
learn to type faster.
and somebody is going to tell you, here's your product. It's called speed typing, and it's fast. And the commercial is going to show someone with their eyes closed typing away, and whatever it is. But this was not what was there. What the core need was, somebody dreamt of leaving suburbia and living in the metro. So a
True.
huge leap between what
Yes.
it was and what it is. So maybe asking the 3 whys could be one way we can get better at briefing.
Very true. I mean, yes, I strongly believe whenever I used to write a creative brief or still whenever I write, I definitely make it a point to include some consumer quotes or their share with the agency what the customer are saying at the time of purchasing the good. We have something called customer suggestion card sort of a thing.
Yes.
So that gives the agency, the creative team, good insight what they need to incorporate, like a
Absolutely.
testimonial or something like that sort of a thing.
Absolutely. Amazing.
In fact, that quote I just recalled. It's by Mario Sachi, the founder of Sachi and Sachi's. He said, "If you can define your brand in one word, then you have arrived." The simple example was, if I say search, what do you guys think? Which brand comes to your mind?
Google.
Yes,
Google.
that's where the power of branding, the power of mind
Absolutely.
recall. So if you can't define your brand in one word, better not attempt it. So that's, I believe, has to come from the senior leaderships, the one who are in the high decision making positions like CEOs or even the founder of the company. If he or she can define what he stands for in one word, then proceed with the marketing and branding
Absolutely.
initiatives.
Absolutely.
That brings to my second question, Marvas, is you have been in the regions for a very long time and you have been involved in advertising and branding agencies. Why very few campaigns are coming or gets nominated from the region when it comes to award ceremonies like Dubai Links or FEs? We see the entries, very few entries from the region coming in. Is there any
Yes.
particular reason?
Maybe to that point, I would say the region has been experiencing year on year growth, and the stagnation and the challenges for brands to start fighting to keep their market share has not kicked in yet. This is a young region, it's actually younger than us.
Hmm.
Um, and brands are just growing. So the need to, carve out a niche to yourself um, is still not there. I find it like if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, um, getting to the place where you're awesomely creative is a very self-actualization
Yes, the
need.
top pyramid.
And the brands here are just experiencing beautiful growth. Um, and we all know that when a brand is super awesome, creative, people actually start turning their eyes towards it. And that makes really a lot of sense when you are trying to be in a red ocean full of sharks and when you're trying to draw eyes to you in between millions of competition. But the region is not there yet, and it is the exact opposite scenario in Europe. So Europe is a very, saturated market
Evolved, yes.
and mature. So what do? You must have exhausted all of the other advertising and marketing ways of doing things. And maybe we need to start appreciating creativity a bit more
True.
and being original a bit more as well.
I mean, this gives me a second question, or rather a third question, Marwa. What is more important, a creative strategy or a creative idea?
Mm. I would say this is the chicken and egg question. I think a
Okay.
creative strategy won't work if you have not given a creative idea, but a creative idea might also not work if you don't have a strategy to back it up. We all know that there has been amazing creative ideas, but ideas die off soon as you don't bring them to life properly.
Mm-hmm.
So you made this hard on me.
Uh, I mean, Marwa, you have been working from the client side as well as previously with the agencies side as well as with the leading agencies like Leo Burnett, BBDO. Which is better since you have been on the both the sides? I always had a fight with my agencies, the account directors, accounts manager, and I used to always tell them, being a client, that you guys don't work. You're only,
Oh
having a
no.
lavish lifestyle, and but
Yeah.
and every time we have to point out a single minute changes or errors. So which side is more better?
Um, I have a confession to make. I moved to the client side because I was really, really tired from working at an agency. I mean, I, worked for agencies for 15 years, and regardless of how high up you go and how experienced you are, you're still exhausted. And let's go back to the fact, because the briefs come in wrong, and because we are reworking, and
True.
because time is crunching, and because being on the agency side, there are no rules and regulations and labor laws that protect you if you work overtime and if you work 12, 14-hour days. And at some point you realize that you really can't do it, and really hats off to everyone at the agency side who works so hard. um, you learn a lot on the client side as well. um, I think it would be extremely healthy for marketeers to always either train at an agency or experience working for an agency at some point in their life.
It's a nice suggestion, very nice suggestion. In fact, I always felt that it's a partnership. It's equivalent to
Absolutely.
husband and a wife, agency and a
Absolutely,
client
yes.
relationship. So that brings me to my second last question, Marwa. I understand you are you are an upcoming author. You're writing a
Yes.
book. Tell us something about, or tell my listeners something about what's happening, what's cooking, what's writing on the book.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you so much for letting me tell you about the book. And this is the first time I talk about the book. Um, the book is simply an embodiment of short, punchy master classes on disciplines of communication and means in which you can settle on the client side. In our day and age, we know there are a lot of marketeers who either started from sales, started from operations, or even started from agencies and are moving to the other side of marketing. And while they may have all the intentions and the skills, they might not really get a chance to understand a lot of the disciplines that are there, especially the communication ones. And this was basically a reflection of what I had to learn on the job. I graduated with a degree in marketing. My MBA was in strategic marketing. I've worked in retail and I've worked in ad agencies. So I was very well versed in media planning and campaign management. And when I moved to the client side, I had to look at new disciplines like internal marketing, internal communication, crisis communication, PR, media relations. Um, and I learned it the hard way. I read a lot of books. I went to too many training sessions. And I see today the benefit of being a well-rounded marketeer, someone who is really capable of managing projects and tasks in all of those disciplines. And so the book is going to answer to that. The book is going to give you quick master classes on disciplines that you
Wow.
may not have experience with. It will guide you on writing briefs, on making budgets, calendars. It will guide you on taking up arguments with the management on how to set a budget. It will help you in matters that you may not know, like putting together a profit and loss statement, managing your budget, and of course, understanding the status quo and how to basically put together a comms function from scratch.
Very nice. So
Yeah.
you are going to replace Fripp Kotler.
Well, to be honest with you, he is my backbone in theory,
Okay.
and there's so much literature on theories out
You're
there,
right.
or on amazing experiences. But I'm talking to those people who are starting from scratch. You've just launched a completely new brand from scratch here in
Yes.
the region, coming from Singapore. There are entrepreneurs who are probably going to run their businesses without a marketing manager for a few years, but need to get an understanding on how to do their own marketing and comms. So this is not a novel. This is going to be a book that you can keep at your desk and always refer back to when you feel the need for help.
Ready reference book.
Ready reference book, yes.
Great.
Practical, hands-on for people on the job.
What it
And
is called?
it's called The Book of Marketing and Comms on the Job.
Very nice. Very nice
Um,
title. Very nice title.
straightforward, straight to the point, and that's exactly what the book is going to give you.
Now that brings me to the last question, Marwa. What is your advice to a budding marketer? How he or she should develop herself so that she
Yes,
becomes successful in keeping a 5 years horizon? So, what would be your three tips for budding marketer?
sure. Um, I think that marketeers in general need to continuously upskill. I mean, the disciplines in the world around us is changing so much. You need to apply a rule where a certain percentage of your time at work goes to learning. Uh, do not believe that your work experience could be enough, and a once a year or twice a year training that your company offers you is enough. You have to do your homework. What I usually tell marketeers that work with me, when you went to school, your parents paid an institution to teach you. Today, your institution is paying you to teach yourself. So you have to find avenues of teaching yourself.
True, true.
And when we talk about learning, let's be honest, blogs don't do it.
Mm.
So, going online, reading a 350 word article, um, let's say on analytics, doesn't make you an expert in analytics.
Mm.
You have to put in the time, you have to, go into a certain depth in
Practice
understanding.
yourself.
Yes.
True.
Um, that would be number one. And number two would be accepting your faults. I mean, we do come to a point where we think we either have enough knowledge, enough degrees, or enough years of experience where things don't go wrong at our side. It's always someone else's work. And let's face it, being a marketeer is being a middleman. You're in between operations, you're in between sales, you're in between the customers and the market. And while things are flowing in and out through your function, mistakes do happen. Um, and maybe not a mistake, maybe just accepting that you could do things better, and not if something is working
True.
for you that you keep it repetitive. And we all know, we've seen marketeers where they repeat their local sales marketing calendars or their annual calendars for many years as it is. They don't try to experiment with new seasonalities. They don't try to experiment with reverse psychology offerings. So just don't become one of those.
True.
Don't become a banker, if I may say.
True,
And
yeah.
I'm so
Marketing is
sorry,
exciting
bankers.
profile. It cannot be
Yes.
a boring as banking. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to re-energize the way you do work. You have to learn, and you have to really accept that there is always a better or a different way of doing things. So trial and error is very important. You
True.
need to try out new things, I would say.
Great. I mean, especially when it comes to digital marketing, it's all about experimentation.
Absolutely.
You have A/B testing, which creative will work. You do a test on using Facebook and Instagram ads. If that doesn't give you lead, you change it to B type, and then again
Absolutely.
run ads and see which is
Yes.
performing better.
Yes,
So yes.
and to this point, we know that today a lot of marketers take their old style of thinking, and they are running digital, they're running digital campaigns, but they run it with one or two Google AdWords. And you think, why aren't you trying 6? Why aren't you trying this in a certain region, and
Exactly.
that in a certain region? So the linearity should not be there. It should go into cycles. That's absolutely true, especially with digital marketing.
True. So the last tip remains. You have given two tips. One is keep learning. Second is accept the faults and learn from it, so that you can keep improving in your next campaign. Which is the third one?
Creativity.
Okay.
Creativity. You can't be. Um, you. That's the only edge you have. That's what will set you apart from everyone else, and that's what will make you in demand. Um, Creativity is not something you subcontract to an agency
True.
or to a consultancy. Really work on your creativity, and I really really get very very disheartened when I see people in the practice that are not creative.
True. I mean, yes, it's unfortunate, especially in this region. The one who actually approves a marketing campaign is a financial guy. So he's a numbers guy who is approving the creative concepts for the company. It's one of the irony, and yes, numbers can also be creative. It depends ultimately how you use and develop your skills in creativity. So thank you, Marwa. Very well
Thank
said.
you,
I'm sure
Ritesh.
this 3 points or 3 tips from a marketing guru. I call her Marwa Kotler now, and will be very helpful to my listeners. And thank you, Marwa, for taking time out. It was wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you, Ritesh. It was the same.
Thank you. Thank you, listeners.